I'm Marin, and this is Post-its and Pens. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marin, and here you will find a little beauty, a little books, and a little teaching content. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around and join me in my little corner of YouTube. In today's video, I am going to do the reading habits tag, which I believe was created by Ariel Bissett. I will link her video down below. So let's go ahead and get into the questions. All right, so question number 1 of this tag says, do you have a certain place at home for reading? I would say the answer is yes, but that's just mostly because that's just where I happen to read. So I do the majority of my reading in the living room in a very comfy rocking chair, which is kind of where I sit all the time if I'm watching TV or I'm on my laptop or anything. So yes, but I didn't set out to make that my reading spot. Question number 2 says, do you use a bookmark or a random piece of paper? And I would say it depends. So I did purchase 2 new bookmarks because I've been reading a lot of library books this year and realized that I needed something to make sure I wasn't messing up those books. Typically, if it is a paperback book that I own, I actually just dog-ear the page when I'm reading, but if it's not my book, obviously I will use a bookmark, so I will use whatever I happen to have around, but I actually realized that I could not find any of my bookmarks, so I did purchase 2 new ones. I also use random ticket stubs and things like that, but since we've been in COVID times, I'm not going anyplace, so I don't really have any ticket stubs, so I would say both, it just depends. Question number 3 wants to know, can you just stop reading or do you have to stop after a chapter or a certain amount of pages? So I would say my preference is to stop at a strict stopping point, like the end of a chapter. Audiobooks are a little bit harder, especially since I tend to listen to them as I'm getting ready for work in the morning. So sometimes I just have to stop it even if it's not at the end of a chapter, although I try to time it so that I can stop at the end of a chapter. I don't really like being left in the middle of something, and at least with chapters you tend to have some kind of resolution. So my preference is to stop at the end of a chapter. Question number 4 wants to know, do you eat or drink while reading? I would say not really. I typically have water next to me all the time at home anyway. I might also have coffee that I'm drinking, but I do not typically eat while I am reading. Question number 5 says multitasking. Can you watch TV or listen to music while reading? And I can, but I don't listen to music a lot of the time. If it happens to be on, it doesn't really bother me. I do tend to turn the TV on so that I have some white noise in the background. I don't really pay attention to the TV, so I wouldn't really call it multitasking, but I can have those on and read at the same time. Question number 6 wants to know, do you read one book at a time or several at the same time? And I would say I typically have 2 books going at once, so I will typically be listening to an audiobook, and then I will typically be reading an actual book or an ebook. So 2 is my max, and that's typically what I have going at the same time. Question number 7 says, reading at home or everywhere? I typically read at home nowadays. However, if I am traveling, obviously I will bring several things to read. I also typically would bring a book if I was going to like an event, so like a baseball game or like a sporting event, something like that. I would typically have a book with me, or actually my Kindle. That way, if there's like a rain delay or something like that, I would have something to do. So I would say I can read everywhere, but I typically read at home nowadays. Question number 8 wants to know, do you read out loud or silently in your head? I definitely read silently in my head unless I'm reading to someone, but typically if I am reading a book for myself, I read it silently in my head. Question number 9 wants to know, do you read ahead or even skip pages? Yes. I cannot handle a lot of tension. It makes me very anxious, so typically I will have to flip at least to the end of a chapter to see if there's some kind of resolution. I've also been known to flip to the end of a book. I don't do it all of the time, but there are definitely times when I do both of those things. So, oh well. Question number 10 wants to know, do you break the spine or do you keep it like new? I don't set out to break the spines. That's not my goal. I actually prefer them to stay looking somewhat nice. However, if it happens to get broken, it's not the end of the world, but I don't really like breaking the spines because then you might actually have pages fall out, and I really don't want that to happen. So no to breaking the spine, but if it happens to occur, I'm not completely torn up about it. And question number 11 says, do you write in your books? And I would say no, not usually. There are a couple here and there that I have kind of jotted some things down in the margins, but I am not a person who tends to write in her books, especially now when I'm reading a lot of library books. I'm obviously not writing in those. So no, I don't really write in my books. That's just not something I've ever done. And those were the 11 questions for the Reading Habits tag. If you would like to go ahead and do this tag yourself, I will leave the questions down below in the description box. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, everyone.